I do maybe 2 or 3 a week. The dailies are really good for growing, but it's a lot of work, and I feel sometimes that I'm a little bit kind of strained for content to get the consistent videos going. But I am contemplating a move to Twitch, and I think maybe 2 or 3 uploads a week, and then maybe 3 days a week on Twitch. I've gotten a lot of support. Everybody says that I would do okay. So I mean, if the support's there and people actually have the time and want to see it and want to hang out, I wouldn't say no, because this community is very dear to me.
If people have to let me know how I'm doing now. I'm still adjusting audio on the fly in my
Sure.
switch over to OBS. I think that this should be in a better range for people. So how did the whole process feel to you compared to regionals in terms of stress level, fun level? How did you feel about the draft? Like all the parts that we ever see, you're smiling, you're sitting there like you are now, and you're so chill about it. And I know you have to wake up relatively early in the morning for the draft, for the battles, for all those things. Does Speedy roll out of bed looking this smiley? Do you normally wake up that early?
I was actually just talking with Alyssa before the call, and the pumpkin cream cold brew just came back, and that's the jam. That's what I get. I have to get the Starbucks every morning. No, I definitely don't wake up very spry. I always need coffee. That's like the first thing I need. Um, I think things really started to come together as soon as we wrapped up the draft. And with any kind of draft league, you're going to see holes in your team. It just kind of depends on how you can fill those holes with the pieces that you're given. So when I ended up taking, I think Obstagoon was probably the key pick, because I needed a counter user. I needed something that beats psychics, and it beat a lot of my opponents' first and second round picks. So it felt like a really good choice. Scrafty had been banned at that point, which is really good because Maron is an incredible player, and he loves Scrafty. I noticed that from watching his Continentals run through APAC, and as long as he didn't get Scrafty, I felt good about that. So Obstagoon is like Scrafty light. That's how I kind of connect the two. And then we went from there. We got Raichu, which I'd never played competitively before. I played around with it here and there, but I'm nowhere near like somebody like Arrow or Valor Ash. I can't do anything those guys can do with it. So I had to learn that whole Pokemon basically. And then Fortress and Wigglytuff, I'm obviously very comfortable with those. The preparation was a little bit different because I'm gonna be honest, guys, for Continentals North America, I made a spreadsheet with all my win conditions against hum styles, and I had like a W with 2 stars. That means I have to bait twice in the 2 shields to win, and that those kind of notes about what can flip the matchups. And I had it all filled out for him. And then when I beat Hump Styles, I said, "Holy crap! I didn't make a sheet for anybody else, and now I have to play other people." This time around, I made a sheet for everybody and just filled it all the way out. I had some really great help. I mean, so many of my friends, I don't know what I can offer them back in return because they did me such a favor, but they just, reached out and they said, "Hey, let's practice. Let's do this. Let me run this for you." And I took advantage of it. The day before Worlds, I played for I think 10 or 11 hours straight. And I was just so tired, and then I got like 4 hours of sleep and had to wake up first thing in the morning and do it again. So is definitely a little bit different, but it's just I guess the degree to which I was thorough was kind of the deciding factor.
What was the time frame like in terms of the how quickly you guys did that draft? So you had 3 rounds of bans and 6 picks. So
Mm.
something along the lines of what 9 times four, was 36 selections of some sort. So how long did you guys have to do that, and just how much thought went into all that? I mean, was some of it just kind of a gut thing, or was it just like you really, really had unbelievably deep thought processes on all these?
Yeah, so it really comes down to this kind of balance you have to strike, and I think this is true for any draft league that you do. It's a balance between picking things that you're comfortable using that also mesh together well on your team of six that can counter your opponent. So there's like three different parallel thought processes you have to be running in your mind, and the draft really starts to take shape once the first round of bans happen. So once you see the steel types going, and you see some of the most important Pokemon like Altaria and Azumarill getting banned, you can kind of start to shape in your head what the meta will look like going forward. So my initial plan when I thought Swampert, or excuse me, I thought Skarmory was a great first pick because I needed a flyer and it's a dominant flyer. And basically after I picked Skarm, my plan was to have it dominate the skies and just and ban every steal that I came across. So I just wanted all the steals gone. That's why I took Bastiodon off the plate for other people when I banned it in the second round of bans. It was a pretty long draft of 5 minutes per pick per person. So I guess it's like a 20-minute swing to go through all four of us. But some people would pick pretty quick, and then you have to be ready. You know, Drock would send a message and say, "Speedy, you're on the timer," and then he'd give you warnings like 3, 2, or 1 minute. I think I got down to 30 seconds on the Alolan Raichu pick, and I was like, I don't know what I want. I have no idea. So, like right when the timer was running out, they gave me. All right, I picked Raichu. Otherwise, they give you whatever the top pick available is based on the custom meta generated by PvPoke. So yeah, after the draft kind of went through, I felt like the pieces were in place to do something special, and luckily that's what happened.
And what was the thought process on the Zyllist ban?
Yeah, a lot of people have given me a lot of flack about that because I didn't really have anything on my team that suffered from it. Um, I don't know, Jiggly. Like I get into these mindsets with North America. I really wanted a steel type on my team because I needed to resist Charm. I need to resist Dragon, and I didn't want Jirachi because Confusion was just so busted at the time because of the fast move mechanics. And this time, I just decided in my head, I was like, I don't want to get melted by a Dragon Breath user. So Altaria's gone. I got to pick the second best one, and I just picked Wireless. And that was probably a wasted ban. If I could go back with 2020 hindsight, I would have banned Maron's Rainy Cast form because that thing was the most annoying Pokemon that I had faced all day and all week in practice before.
What did you think was probably your most important pick? Was it your Fortress or something else?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So for me personally, I felt like if I could kind of broaden my response a little bit, I
Oh,
felt like
sure.
I felt like the best thing I did with my team was run double steal. When I came down to the final pick, I was like, do I run Frostlass or do I pick Fortress? And I was already so thin at the moment because I didn't have any bulk on my team. I was like, you know what? It basically does the same job. It beats a lot of the dark or not dark types, but it beats a lot of things I want to beat with Fortress, like the grass types. So I might as well just pick it because I'm familiar with it. But I think I know Wigglytuff has gotten a lot of love, Raichu as well, and then Fortress obviously is a big thing. But I really think the pivot point of my entire team is probably Obstagoon. If I had to pick one individual Pokemon.
Any of the other panelists want to jump in and throw some questions before I keep going at Speedy here?
Yeah, every time I see the Between Two Bellsprouts, I think of Zach Galifianakis'
Yes.
show, Between Two Ferns, and
Yes.
I always hope that I don't come on. And it's like, so Speedy, you're pretty much a scrub, other than this one win, and then we go into like this banter back and forth where we trash each other.
That was kind of the initial idea was that there could be a little bit of nonsense like that when it was Butters and I, but I decided it would be a little bit too nuanced for the crowd and that they
it's
might
a
not
unique
understand.
brand. It's such a unique brand of humor. I had to watch several. I had to watch the movie before I decided it was funny.
Right. Right.
So I'm not gonna ask any questions then.
Okay, yeah, that
Oh.
rules out nonsense. I saw him open his mouth, and I was like, I better bring this up.
Well, shit.
Oh, come on.
Well, I have a couple for you. Just
Yeah.
because I looked at the VOD and just kind of like went through all of your matches specifically, and like I saw with you versus Mephis, and you
Mhm.
took the game one loss, right?
Yeah.
I think that was one of maybe two losses. I think like two losses, maybe three losses, because we didn't say game three against Maron.
Mhm.
But I think that was like one of two or three losses that you had the whole run. You basically swept the tournament. So game one, match one against Mephis, you take a loss. You come back to win. What kind of mindset did you have? Were you like, did you just shrug it off and like, hey, there's still two more? Or, with the pressure and the high level plays and everything that it is, did did Speedy kind of have like a dark moment of like, oh no, like I'm gonna lose this. It's gonna come away for me? Like, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question, and my local friends actually asked me the same thing because they did notice I dropped that first game, and at that point you're kind of if you can imagine like a boxing analogy, you kind of get knocked on your heels, and then you have to decide what to do, and there are a lot of other players that are much better than me that have been in the same position and have come back from it, but I kind of personally how I handle it in that moment is I think kind of like a in terms of a um, kind of a regret minimization framework is what I use. And I just say to myself, like, you made it this far. Everybody's been so supportive. I was getting so many messages of people saying, like, no matter what happens, we'll be happy. And I just kind of don't try to get too down on myself in those moments and just kind of look back and kind of just bask in kind of the support I've gotten so far and kind of use that to kind of buffer any kind of doubts I would have. Because in those moments, that there's the question like I said at the beginning of the stream, I peak competitively. There's nothing that's going to be better than that. So there's one voice in your head that says this is your only chance that you're ever going to get. So and then the other voice says, well, you already have so much support, so just relax and have fun. And it's kind of like a duel between those two wolves in your mind, and you have to decide which one to go with. So yeah, after the first one, I realized I made a couple of plays here and there that weren't too good, and I said, you know what? Memphis is a really good player. He's got one of the best teams. I think he's going to do well against everyone else. So even if I drop this round, I'll probably see him again in the finals. And I just kind of said, you know what? Let's just play our game, just like we've been doing in practice. So I took the list of the teams that I have. I have a notebook where I wrote out I think four teams of three for each opponent, just based on what I'd seen in game one and what to start with. And yeah, I just picked one of those teams and I said, I think this will work. And Maximus, that second game, I had to mud shot down that Cresselia, and I was like yelling at my phone at that moment. It's like he's out picking the hell out of me. Like Memphis is going to destroy me here, and somehow the Swampert came through, and I just mud shotted it down and somehow stole that game.
Yeah, and I think his fatal flaw was having confusion on Cresselia, because you
Agreed.
can't pressure with the grass knot. And then when you had, and that was to me that was the sum of game two, was just Cresselia.
Yeah.
It really didn't come through for him. And then in game three again he goes with the Cresselia and he has a grass knot, right? And he also has Moonblast. So it to me with confusion you can count a little bit better, and you can kind of call like bait or double Moonblast or whatever the stack up of energy can be. And you made the call of not shielding a grass knot when you had an Obstagoon, and Moonblast nukes your Obstagoon because Obstagoon's kind of glassy, right? It's kind of like
For
a
sure.
hunter or a primate. And if you call that, you win. If you improperly call, you lose. And from there, you just rock paper scissors them out of the matchup. So
Hmm.
like to go from a game one loss to have that mindset, like that was really neat to see. So like again, I commend you on having that mindset to pull through and not burying yourself in negativity and having that positive attitude on it. Um,
Sure. So, if I may just add a little thought to that, because you're actually breaking it down really, really well, and I think you made some good points. Part of the reason that I had a suspicion he was running confusion is because the rest of his team comp was a little weak to fighters, having Toxicroak, Machamp, and Metacham all on opposing teams. Like you have to find a way to beat fighters, and I feel like Mephis needed confusion to do that. Um, a lot of people were talking about the Alolan Raichu lead in Game Three into the Zapdos. Because I knew that Cresselia was confusion, I knew it had a lot less play against Raichu, so it made Raichu a lot safer. So when we lead the Raichu into Zapdos, he immediately switches, goes into Cresselia. I come out with Obstagoon. It is important to keep Obstagoon around, but Raichu had such a good matchup against that Zapdos that even if Obstagoon somehow went down, as soon as I got off the Night Slash, I knew I could come in with Raichu, probably farm down or do something, maybe a wild charge and then farm, and then match up with the Zapdos later. But keeping switch advantage was super important. So yeah, with the bluff there, I got really lucky. It reminded me of the Dunebug match in North American finals when the Gallade almost close combated the Fortress, and I just knew it was a Leaf Blade somewhere in my gut.
yeah, and that's something that you get with um, just like you're saying, you're listening to your instincts there because instinct is the best team. No, just kidding. Like it's just one of those things that it's a feel, right? It's that like
Yeah.
sixth sense that battlers have. And if he takes out the Obstagoon, you're not completely out of the matchup, but you definitely have to like what House Dark, Valarash, Arrow, like all of those top battlers, how they say that you need to find the win condition, right?
Yep.
So you'd have to go hunting for that win condition, but you were able to pull it out in game one. And like I said, it's not like these battlers are bad. It's just a matter of one battler trying to find the win condition and holding on to it, and not let the other one find the other win condition and hold on to it.
Sure.
And then to me, the really exciting matchup was you versus Maron, because I think this is Japan's first official season
Hmm.
because of the translation issues from season one. I think a couple of them joined in season two, but it became a lot more accessible in this season. So to see the Japanese players have a Japanese player make and represent APAC, that was really exciting to see. And you got the game one win, you got the game two win. They didn't show game three because it was time, and also like you won that round. But it seemed like that ate you. Like you say that you don't know how to manage it as well as some of these other more established practice players with HU, such as Arrow, Valarash. They run that thing at nauseum. But
Yep.
with you, you're a little bit inexperienced. But um, you have energy management there with the HU. Not only did you, like most players, would go two wild charges, throw one, and then maybe switch out. But even though you still have energy, the fact that you allow your opponent to gather energy, um, that's the thing that a lot of players don't think about. So the fact that you went to one wild charge through and then switched out, banking on the fact that you could get maybe two more wild charges and not really be affected by that debuff off of the first one. But if you had two wild charges, you'd have to throw one, be affected by the debuff, stack up to the second one, throw it, and then maybe throw the third one. Like that's a lot more risk that you're putting yourself and your HU at. So like
Yeah.
to do that, like you've got some play. So I would say that you're pretty good at with Alone and Raichu. Because you had
Thanks,
really
man.
good energy management there, and you had clock management too. It wasn't just a matter of like some people, and you saw this in another matchup, I think, with I want to say Ventusky.
Hmm.
uh, I think he was throwing with the Galarian Stun Fist, he was throwing the rock slides to get that timer because of
Oh,
clock
Mephis, yeah.
management. Mephis, okay, so he
Yeah.
had that in game three. So there's people who are trying to throw those moves, and some people are like, "That's bad. Like, what are you doing? This move is not the move to go with." But banking on the fact that the clock management and stuff, and you had that in game one, and then in game two, I liked your little tip of the hat to the Jiggly stat stream. You gave like a really big shout out to Jiggly Dad there with the Wigglytuff coming in.
Yes.
I you've been outed now. I saw through your scheme there.
Yeah. So I just want to give you a few quick points on Maron and try not to bore you too much. So Maron in practice was my hardest opponent. The night before Worlds, I played. I'll say his name now because he was such a huge help, and it's so hard to name who your practice partners are because I have so many. But I do want to name one in particular, Mudkip, Arizona, and he's just God. He's so good. He's amazing, and he used Maron's team, and he beat me 8 times in a row, and and he just destroyed me. And I felt like my win conditions were extremely slim. So if you notice in game one, he doesn't bring Tropius, which is just the biggest kind of deciding factor for the entire game because he's expecting me to bring Skarmory. So he brings Rainy Cast Form, he brings Stunfisk, he brings all kinds of things that can hurt it, and I don't bring Skarm. And that was kind of the deciding thing. I liked Raichu because it had play against a Tropius lead and a Melmetal lead. The only thing I really didn't want to see was Stunfisk. And uh, yeah, I mean, to have the Rainy Cast Form and everything, and I know I gave everyone a heart attack when I tried to work up to double wild charge against Rainy, but I was just so in the moment and just so laser focused on the energy that I didn't realize he was out of shields and I could have thrown that thing earlier. And the nut actually messaged me and he said, if you would have let Raichu die, I would have booked a flight to Florida in the U.S. from Germany, and I would have beat your ass. So yeah, that's fair. I wouldn't blame you. But Maron, I have so much respect. He's an incredible player. He did really well in the draft. His team just countered mine in so many ways, and I told all my friends, and he probably, if he even watches anything I post on Twitter, or anything I say in a podcast or interview, like I was terrified of his team. I say it comfortably now because it's over, but I sound scared.
Oh man.
Yeah,
For sure.
and like to see, and what was funny is he has the regular Stunfisk, and in game two he switches, and I feel like that was something that, like he lost the win condition there, and you found, and you took full advantage of it. You didn't go like, oh well, I want to save, or try to play a little bit, like let them get into your head a little. You're just kind of like, oh well, come on, let's go Swampert, and let's just close this thing out. And
Yeah.
it's to see you just take advantage of it and kind of like go for the throat, because you seem like a really nice guy. You're like, oh well, I really like to talk to you about stuff. But then in the game, seeing you do, just kind of like, oh, he's a shark. Like he's definitely not as nice right now. He's definitely going for the throat. Right, he went for the juggler.
Yeah,
Um,
my
so
my
that was cool.
favorite play style is to just kind of feint in one direction and just land just this devastating uppercut. That's how I play other video games as well. I just really like to have that aggressive, just closing attack that really just puts your opponent on their feet, or on their heels, excuse me. So yeah, game two I remember as well because it was so traumatizing fighting him. Um, I remember he led Tropius, and I was like, as long as this isn't a Melmetal, I'm gonna two shields and turn this whole thing into rock paper scissors. And he led Tropius, and even though dude, I remember the shoutcasters were like, oh, he's gonna put up a second shield. Like, what is he doing? He's crazy. And I was able to take down the Tropius with the charms. Shout out Jiggly Dad. And and then I knew like Raichu and Swampert had perfect coverage for whatever was in the back, as long as Tropius was off the battlefield. And that's exactly what happened. So once the Wiggly went down, rest in peace. I just turned the whole thing into RPS after that.
Right. Yeah, that was really cool to see. And like I said, I like seeing the Japanese players have their
Same.
champion to represent, and I'm sure that they're going to be coming for you comes the next season.
Oh, I won't ever
Specifically
be on that
you.
stage again. Yeah. I'm gone.
And
Oh.
then we have two more matches, or two more whole games against you and Ventuski. And game one was super close. I'm talking about like one fast move determines that matchup, and Fortress comes through for you. And now I think you need a new logo redone with Fortress. Or are you ever gonna get that tattoo of like Fortress Life, like the Tupac type of thing, and it has Fortress in the back? Like,
Oh yeah, sorry. I just saw Alyssa cringe. Yeah. She's like, I don't know about that.
I have a lot of tattoos, but don't do that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I don't have any tattoos, but I've always kind of struggled. Like, what do I love so much that I want a tattoo of it? And I think your first one's always your hardest. It's kind of like your gateway tattoo.
Mhm.
Um, but I've been telling everybody it's going to be a face tat. It's going to go like right above my eyebrow.
Oh
Just
no.
like the fortress right there. But no, Ventuski's an incredible opponent, and I know he posted on Twitter today and said he let people down. But I hate that anybody feels that way, because when we were in that champions chat, I hate saying because it sounds so pompous, but they were champions of their continent. So I guess it technically was a champions chat. But anyways, we were there talking, and before every single match, everybody was like, "Hey, I'm so excited to battle you. This is such an honor. You're an awesome opponent." Like, everybody was so kind. There's no trash talk. There's no underhanded nonsense. It was just really, really a very warm environment. And I felt bad because Ventusky and I played the first time, and I actually felt the best about my matchup with Ventusky. I was running double steal in practice with Wigglytuff switch in. Shout out Jiggly Dad, and it worked really, really well. And because he didn't have any steal on his team, so if I lost the lead, I put Wigglytuff in, and Wigglytuff just beats down whatever's in front of it, and then I win switch advantage back, and then I just change the match however I want to change it. Um, so that was kind of my strategy going in. And Mephis is my hero because there was a moment when Maron had fallen to the loser bracket and he played Mephis, and whoever won that match was going to go to the finals. And luckily, Mephis took down Maron because that meant that Ventusky at 2-1 was going to be my final opponent. And if it was Maron again, my heart couldn't take it. I would be on a stretcher somewhere.
Nice. Yeah, in game 2, Fortress comes in for you again, right? You have Fortress coming in doing, everything you
Fortress
can ask
stuff.
of it and more. But if Fortress is your general, I feel like HU is your lieutenant. Because again, like it came in and it cleaned up shop. It like your Fortress did all the heavy lifting, and your HU just came in and said like, "I got this, fam." Like you can, it totally went like full. Like Fortress went down like Tony Stark at the end of Endgame, and then like HU just like, "You can rest now," and it just came up and it
Too
just
soon.
Spoiler
yeah,
alert.
it took care. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
And so like you take care of the match there, but you do take a loss to Ventusky in game 3.
Yeah.
And then you have to fight him again, and there's like this grudge match, and Ventusky has to pull out, I think like 3 wins in a row, or 3 whole sets in a row, right? He has to win 6 out of 9, which is a big task. And there was, I don't want to say like a very controversial play, but just like the Hypno versus the Fortress, and your Fortress wins CMP. Like, I don't know if you can share this, but like if I was Ventusky, I would be completely like outraged, and I would be upset because if CMP worked, he at least gets off 1 fire punch,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe he doesn't feel as bad about like not being able to do a fire punch, or if it feels like he got to play versus not playing. And I don't know if he was upset. I don't know if you guys talked it out or whatever. And he had mentioned things before on Twitter, like he wants to walk away from the game.
Yeah.
But what happened there, with if you can kind of like elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I do have my notebook over there where I wrote down Fortress attack stat. So I went into PV Poke, plugged in all my IVs, and looked at what the numbers were. And I don't know what is Hypno's. If you have a good Hypno, what is the attack stat? Like 103? I think Fortress
It's
is
like
like
120. It's 122 on a good Hypno with like 0 attack shadow,
okay.
right? Because it was a shadow. And if your Fortress has like 15 attack,
Yeah,
then you can kind of get to like 120, 118 or something like that. But he gets up to like 122. So like at the floor and ceilings, in theory, he should be winning.
for
But again,
sure.
like we don't know how, and nothing's been confirmed, right? And we don't know if it means that we go on a lot of speculation. So if we just go off of PV Poke, then like I would be upset. But
Yeah,
you guys
so
have more information, so like how did that go down?
yeah, so that's a really interesting point. And to be candid, like Ventusky and I didn't talk about that. I will say that I was under the impression that Shadow Hypno's attack stat was that high because that's how it looks in PV Poke. But one of my local Florida friends said that even though Shadow Hypno has the higher attack stat in PV Poke, it doesn't apply to CMP. It actually has a base Hypno's attack stat. So
Okay.
it just applies in terms of damage. So like you said, like there's certain things in the game that still aren't exactly explained to us, even as competitors, because just Niantic, has their own way of doing things. But from what I understand, I believe it was pretty close. And then there's always the caveat that maybe the Fortress, because the bug bite's a little bit faster, maybe he was mid confusion animation. Maybe that was the determining factor. But yeah,
Right.
Ventusky's a really great guy, and I don't want anybody to, kind of. I know he wanted to represent well, and I don't want anybody to say anything badly about him because he was an insane competitor, and I really respect him.
Yeah, and to see him, like I said, he had a tall build to fill there.
Yeah,
And I could see why he might take it a little bit too hard on himself about like he letting people down. But I mean, to be honest, him and some of the other legends and elite battlers from Latin America, like you can't knock on them at all.
of course.
They're definitely like these living legends for Latin America, and they do come from a community that's very strong and supportive for them and their leaders and their winners and their champions. So like to me, I wanted to know how he kind of took that, especially because like this is the worlds
This
where it
is
has
it.
all four regions, and this
Yeah.
this was like the first like big tournament where you have an actual definitive world champion. And you know, like hats off to him. He did a freaking amazing job to
Yeah.
get to where he was, and then to compete against you. And I think the chat said that you were supposed to be renamed the algorithm or something like that.
Oh, I don't know
So
about
for him
that.
to battle against the algorithm, like
The algorithm just has so many negative connotations. People hate the algorithm. The algorithm sucks. Come on.
yeah. But yeah, so great job going through those matchups. Congratulations to Ventusky, Mephis, and Maron. They, it's not like they didn't really win anything. They still got to the world champions, so it's not like you know, winning continentals was easy. winning regionals was easy. Qualifying with all those metas was easy. You know, like they very well deserved. And congrats to them, and a special congrats to you and your fortress. And I saw that there was a movement to have all of the fortress named Go Speedy or something to
Oh
support you.
yeah.
So how did that go for you? How did you feel about that movement?
so so yeah, there were some tears involved. To be candid, yeah. Yeah, it's just such a weird thing. I just don't I don't know. I do want to make a thank you post, but I just and I want to say thank you a million times. It's just so weird. Yeah, I think Kachina Mom started it by naming her buddy, and then people started to respond, and the pictures just started coming in, and it was interesting because we started battling at 8 a.m. that morning Eastern time, um, and we had wrapped the battles by 11. So I knew the outcome an hour before the stream started, and my friends were, you know, some friends were asking me to spoil it and tell them, and some thought it was still live, and some people were just a little bit confused about the format. Me too. And and it just kind of it became this moment where I knew what happened, and then I saw all these people pouring out their support, and they had no idea what was going to happen. They had no idea if I was going to go 0-4 or what was going to go down, and they were still doing that. So that says a lot.
Yeah,
Did
that's really cool.
did Alyssa or scientist want to chime in at all with any questions from your end?
Yeah, I feel like I know the answer to this, but because you did more than anyone really could ever hope to do this season, do you have goals for next season, or are you just going to kind of sit back and be like, this is it, so next season is just for fun?
Yeah, so if we're talking about positives and negatives here, I have a huge target on my back.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Anytime I go into a tournament next year, it can be. I believe that when you play this game, like with all competitive things, there are peaks and troughs. And how I was playing yesterday, was it yesterday? Feels like it's been a century. Yesterday, how I was playing yesterday, I probably will never play that well again. So any tournament I go into now, people are going to say, "Did you hear that guy's the world champ?" And then when they beat me, they're going to be like, "Yeah, he kind of sucks." So yeah, he's
They're
not
gonna
that
post
great.
it on Twitter with the videos like, "Hey, look, I beat the world champ."
Exactly, and I'm ready for all that. You know, that's what comes with the territory. So, to be honest, my goals for season 2 in Sylph, I want to be more consistent because I had a roller coaster of a season. Not as much as some people, but coming from a 2-5 weighted Forest Cup, I was so burned out at the end of Toxic because we had just gone to full remotes, and I signed up for like 6 tournaments. I was like, yeah, this will be fun. And then by the end of it, I just hated my life, and I was so burned out. And then I went to Forest and failed there, and then just something happened, something clicked in continentals, in these open metas in particular. The fight typing metas are a little hard for me for reasons I don't understand, but the open metas really worked out for me. And then I just had the greatest friends to help me draft. It's just like, you know, they gave me like input here and there, and we did practice drafts leading up to it, and they were like, yeah, well, if he goes this, then you should do that. And just donating their time is super helpful. So yeah, I mean, next season's gonna be interesting. I want a 69% win rate. That's my goal, because I was at like 64, 63, 64 this year. So I just want to be more consistent.
Your first pick, did you have what you wanted to pick kind of in mind, or did you have like a bunch of teams written out of compositions that you really wanted to hit?
Yeah, so I definitely did have some kind of dream teams in mind, and whenever we would do the practice drafts, we'd always try to think through who the bands were going to be, what the meta would shape up to look like, and I had a couple of thoughts in mind, but I played with so many Pokemon because of the Sylph Arena. I'm so familiar and comfortable with a lot of them. So as long as I picked something that I knew I could learn or that I was already familiar with, I was pretty content. Skarmory, obviously, I had a rank 3 Skarmory, so it was a pretty easy pick for me to make. Swampert's rank 11, and then I had Obstagoon was my weak link. It was like rank 526. So, but it just
It's not
fit.
even bad though.
Yeah, you're right. It's not bad. It's not terrible at all. It's just yeah, it fit in the moment, so it seemed like the right thing to do. But yeah, I had some dream teams, but you have a plan in life until you get hit in the face and somebody takes the pick you want, then you have to pivot.
Anything from scientist, or you long for the ride?
I was just wondering. I know you practice with well, now you said Mudkip. Like, what kind of like how was he like really like what was the attitude that he gave you when you were practicing, and like did that help at all while you were playing your matches? Like, was he like inspiring you or like continually being positive, or like was he like you're gonna
A
go
drill
crush
sergeant.
it, or like yeah, I don't know, or like don't overthink things. I don't know. What was the kind of feedback, if you can give that out?
Yeah, for sure. So Mudkip is just extremely, and I don't mean to take away from anyone else I practice with. Like I have so many people
Right.
that I scrim with, and I just singled him out because he donated so much of his time, and I just want to say I was thankful.
Right. Actually, before we get into that question,
Oh.
let's make it all the people that you practice with instead of just Mudkip. Okay, there we go.
Oh, okay. How everybody treated me?
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, there we
Okay.
go.
Well, can I talk about Wild Susan Boyle?
No,
Okay,
that's
sure.
that's
Nope,
banned.
nope,
That's stream,
nope,
not allowed
nope.
on stream. No, go ahead.
Okay, understood. Okay, I won't say anything about that.
Okay, just kidding then.
Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, so excluding that, everybody was really supportive.
I see.
If we could just put that to the
Sounds
side.
about right.
I was
Par
getting
for the course.
messages. I was getting messages as an unnamed individual was watching the playback, and the individual said, "Why the hell did you bring Scar? How did you fit all your mistakes into one game? And I can't believe this
Man.
worked."
Did that
After
did
the
that
fact.
yeah. Oh, after that. Okay, good.
Yeah, like
didn't know.
after the tournament, like
Okay.
this person watched
This
it
person.
later. They watched it later, and they just couldn't believe I was an idiot, such an idiot. So, but anyways, yeah. So Mudkip, he said a few things that are really helpful. He said, basically just kind of be secure in your preparation, and kind of just have a plan for what happens next. For example, he said, against Maron, that's who I practice against him the most with, and he's the
Right.
person who beat me 8 times in a row. And I said, I kept on sending him messages like, this is impossible, it's not going to work, this guy's too good, his team just crushes mine, I need to 6-0 the other 2 guys to have any chance at all. And he said, all of them are building their own houses, but we're going to build you the best house. He says, like, there's a 1,000 ways to bend the nail, and you're gonna find the way to actually like hammer it in. Just things like that were really helpful. So
Whoa.
yeah, and when
Mudkip's a
it,
poet. Dang.
Mudkip is the doppelganger to Wild Susan Boyle. Like, so those are each other's foils, because one is like beating you and saying like, how I am impressed by how bad and how stupid you are in one matchup, and the other one is like giving you full on like Confucius tellings of like,
It's like
like
beautiful. Wow.
yeah, like you can. There are a million ways to screw up, but you, my son, will find the one way to prevail. You're just kind of like, holy shit, like
yeah. No, and that's the thing too. And I kept asking him like, what do you? How can I pay you back? Like, what do you want? He said, I remember not having a good scrim partner for Continentals and how much I hated it. So next year, Continentals, if you scrim with me, this is all worth it. I was like, well, obviously not. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously I would. Yeah, 100%. So, but yeah, that was the general attitude. Removing that one, still my friend, that one person who's harsh, but that's his job. I asked him to tell me the nightmare scenarios, and he did.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That was my only question.
It's like, didn't know
Yeah.
you'd get such a deep answer to that question.
Wow.
Yeah. So, in terms of the scrimming, I'm guessing one of the major parts of scrimming is figuring out what your opponents are most likely to lead in different scenarios. How accurate did your scrim partners seem to be, and how important do you think it is to have scrim partners of that level who can think kind of at the same level as the competition?
Yeah, so I probably look like I'm a crazy person because in my notebook I just have like A/SK/W versus O/X/Y, and it's just me notating what my opponents are leading against me, and that's exactly what I did. Every single person I played, I wrote down what they ran against me, and I just kind of took that as a sample size. Scientific approach. What is the most common thing that people are leading, etc. And to that point, this is the last thing I'll bring up about him, but that certain individual, I told him, I'm seeing, whenever I ask people to play Ventusky's team, I'm seeing Venusaur leads all over the place. And he said, yeah, that's because every single one of your scrim partners are idiots. I said, I'm winning all the time. Like, what's going on? He's like, yeah, they're dumb. And he had a point because when I actually fought him, I don't think he brought Venusaur at all. So there's always that dichotomy there. But yeah, I definitely took notes. And Jiggly, you're 100% right. Like, if you can kind of predict what your opponents are going to lead, obviously in a game like this, it makes all the difference.
Did you what changes did you notice in the game between North American regionals and the finals? You talked about the different fast move mechanics that really helped you win in North America, and how much did that influence you at the different stages, both the battle and your selections that might have been different because of that being a little bit different as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so thankful still that Niantic put together that letter and responded to the community and have agreed to be more transparent going forward. Huge props to Go Stadium, JR Honda, and everyone that was behind that, because that was just a really unified, positive, constructive message, and actually did a lot of good for us. I know there are petitions out there to boycott the game, and I did lend my support to one of them just because I felt like we needed to speak out in some way, because it's just something we care about so much, and it's so precious to us. We invest so much time, and a lot of our self-esteem gets caught up in whether you win or lose. So yeah, we just want it to be fair. That's the thing that we want the most in the world. So because we all enjoy it, it just needs to be fair for everybody. I did notice that they fixed the desync in terms of fast moves, so everything seemed a lot more smooth, which meant I could play my game really comfortably. I think if you notice, I had air slash, counter, mud shot, bug bite, charm, and volt switch. So I had a good mix actually of different move speeds. Charm and volt switch being 4 turns, air slash is 3, mud shot's 1, and then I guess if you want to say bug bite's like a half turn move, you can say that. But I had a good mix there, and I didn't have any 3-turn fast moves, which is interesting. Well, no, I had air slash. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the mix was really nice, and then because Niantic fixed it, it made everything so much more pleasant. It was actually really, really fun to play in practice.
Yeah, no turn 2 charge moves, which have been kind of like the center of people saying like, oh, those ones are the ones that are broken or inconsistent at least.
Yeah.
So that was really cool that you got to play your game.
For sure. Yeah. It was much better.
We all obviously got to see the version of Speedy that won North America and that won Worlds, and you've certainly amazed us all with like just your charm and grace and all that. But what do you think in an alternate reality where you didn't win? What do you think it would have meant to you? Like, how would you have handled that? And obviously not necessarily getting so much attention and all that. Like, what does it mean to you that it turned out this way? I mean, what's the upside and what's the part that we don't see? What's the screaming at your phone look like? Can you demonstrate?
Can I demonstrate? I mean, you can ask anyone that's around me during a battle. Sometimes when we had in-person tournaments, I'd go outside, so I couldn't be heard. There's certain moments that are really rough, but yeah, I think honestly the Speedy behind the scenes just really I'm really worried about letting people down in kind of a way. I don't want that to be a thing. So whenever I look at a new commitment like Twitch or YouTube uploads or competing at a high level, I always think, it's kind of that regret minimization thing. I just kind of figure like, what's the worst thing that could happen, and would people still be supportive? Is kind of how I like to frame it. So whenever I look at a new endeavor, I kind of weigh those things, because I guess people's opinions matter to me a lot, especially the people that I care about and the people that are, have helped me along the way. What they say, I really do listen to.
Then I guess I should take this opportunity to say that I would love to support you, but I feel like I can't until you become Team Instinct if you're not already.
Oh,
Oh,
with
man.
the team talk. Why do you have to be so divisive? What do you think? What would you say to the the player base as a whole, in terms of those who might be, as you would say, better battlers because you think you've peaked, those who are on the same level,
100%.
those who are getting frustrated with the game, those who are turning away from it right now? What do you think from your position you can do, or you would say to them, to really kind of maybe keep the momentum that we have going in PvP, to keep it a positive thing and push through this off season, and not just focus on the GBL nonsense? I'm not diminishing GBL. People always give me grief when I say one's better than the other, but just the fact that everybody's getting frustrated with the game in spurts and we don't know what the future holds. What would you say is the reason you stick around and you would give people to hang on to?
Yeah, I definitely understand what you mean when you say that about GBL. GBL is its own unique monster. It's very different from Sylph. So we all operate with the same kind of tools, the same kind of Pokemon, but the format makes a world of difference. And actually, Nightwing asked me if I wanted to come on GBL Throwdowns on his channel, and I just don't know if I'm good enough and people actually want to see that. I did hit rank 10 the past 2 seasons, but I'm not one of those people like Toshi or Butters or Asian Milkman that just hits rank 10 and like finishes the season at like 3,200. That's just nonsense. Like that's sick how good they are. So it's a different format, and I think everybody has their own strengths. If I could give everybody one piece of advice, I think it would be to take breaks and be patient with yourself, because there are things that you kind of learn intuitively at different speeds. For example, for me, typings was something I struggled with up until a few months ago, and I still like some things are a little bit odd to me, like why fire resists charm. Some of this stuff like doesn't really make sense to me. So I'm still learning all the time, just like everyone else. And you have different, if you can imagine like parallel kind of learning processes that you're experiencing, whether it's typings or it's timings on throwing charge moves, or it's energy management, or it's team comps, or it's predicting. You have all these parallel thought processes that have to grow together and get to a certain level on each of them. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to have success. So if you're struggling with predicting your opponent's back line, which is something I'm still, I know it sounds like pompous to say this, but because I knew which Pokemon to expect from my opponents, I was able to make the calls like that Machamp in the back when I played against Ventusky, and I had the Skarmory and the Obstagoon. And if I would have picked Skarmory, I would have lost. I picked Obstagoon instead at the moment. So it's so hard to do all these things at the same time and keep them all congruent in your mind. So when you're doing your 5 sets of GBL and you're doing daily whatevers and you're battling your friends, and it's so much. And if you just give yourself a break and try to refresh and reset, I think it sounds so passive, because nobody wants to just stop. We're all very gung ho. We want to move forward as quickly as possible. But when you take breaks and refresh, it helps a lot.
Yeah, I think that is good advice indeed.
There's so much FOMO. Pokemon Go is FOMO. 100%.
If there was one title other than Sylph World Champion that you could win next year that would satisfy you on any level, what would it be that would come next? It could be as much next. It could be way down there. But what would you want to do that would add to your resume, do you think?
When I first started this season, I was part of the team that put together the Orlando Mega Cup. And I had no idea that competitively things would go this direction. Obviously, everybody wants it, and there's a difference between wanting something and expecting it to happen. And I feel like some people expect it to happen and then get mad at themselves when it doesn't. And it's just so hard to expect those things when there's so many variables outside of your control. So just excluding the whole competitive angle, when we did the Orlando Mega, I really wanted to travel to different cups. And my dream and my goal still at this point is to shoutcast a Mega Cup. I think that's something I would really, really enjoy doing. That was my goal in Orlando after I saw it. And it was funny because Jay Farmakis was one of our shoutcasters, and he flew from Canada that day and landed in the airport in Orlando. And then one of our friends came and picked him up from the airport and brought him to the Groovy Goat where we had the tournament at. And I was just itching. I was like, if J Farm can't show up, I can put on a suit. I can be in the booth. I can do it. I promise you I can do it. And it was like this huge moment for me. I was like, I'm going to sit next to AJ and it's going to be crazy. And this whole fantasy is going on in my head and nobody else is thinking this. I'm not even considering Speedy. They're like, yeah, J Farm will be here. Don't worry. And just like, and a shout out to those guys. They're both amazing shoutcasters. But yeah, when I started my videos, I expected to lend my support in the terms of teaching as much as I could from what I learned and shoutcasting and just making things really exciting as I could. And I feel like if I could shoutcast a major tournament next year, I'd be over the moon.
I love to hear that. We definitely still have to connect up on the Shoutcast School thing. I'm going to let you tell me. Me when you have had the break that you need, because the last thing I want to do is be in your DMs for like the 500th time to bug you.
You're never a bother. No, don't say that.
So he's going to be on the next Shoutcast School, ladies and gentlemen. Immediately after this programming, we will be planning for the Shoutcast School featuring Speediest.
On Mondays. I thought it was Wednesdays.
Oh, it's Wednesdays. What did you have to do to set up that you would have me in the first round of the Kaiser Invitational to kind of grease the skids for you to move on in that one?
Well, you remember there was a tournament reset. I'm just kidding. No, but it's funny, and this is another aspect of my competitive play style that wouldn't really lend itself to thinking I could compete at this level. When Casey and I actually forced the extension because we were busy, and we had to battle later. I was like, man, dodging always works, and I felt like a winner that we forced the extension there. So. That's you would think that somebody who was a dodger like that would compete, but yeah, it's another facet of my gameplay. Some people hate me for it.
Oh man, anything else that you want to let everybody know or leave the people with before we talk to Abhinav here about his Grunt Cup victory and let you? I mean, you can hang on as long as you want, like we said before, but I know you've had a long day, a long weekend, and. Anything else you got coming up?
Yeah, well, I just really appreciate the opportunity. It's so funny because after North America, we had our talk, and then after this, we're having a talk too, and it's just I feel so welcomed, and this show is so great, and your team is amazing. So I always appreciate the opportunity. I don't know if I really have anything to plug. I kind of been asking people if they think there's a market for me on Twitch. And just if you have any feedback on that, I'd like to know. I see Scientist is shaking his head. He said,
I'm tuning in 100%. First sub.
Big shout out to Lyndon. He was the one that spearheaded that Orlando Mega Tournament. So big shout out to him.
Yes.
Him and crew were the ones that, like you said, they were plotting and planning to make sure that you didn't get to Shoutcast.
Yeah. No. Lyndon's one of my best friends, and you're right. He spearheaded the whole thing. That would not have happened if not for Lyndon.
Yeah,
100%.
And then also the Shadow Cup that you have with Team Rocket Academy.
Maxtus, you're on top of it, man. This is great.
It also helped that Mel did put it into the chat too.
So, that was in my mind, but yeah, when Mel put that in there, for sure.
Yeah, so on my journey to Shoutcast a mega tournament, I'm looking at co-hosting the Shadow Cup on September 5th. This is an unranked tournament, unweighted. This is just for fun. We're all getting together, and as you can probably tell by the title, it is a shadow only meta. It's hosted by Team Rocket Academy, which is a YouTube channel and a team of about 5 people that have put together so much great Sylph content for us. So if you want to blow the dust on some shadows and you want to compete, it's going to be really fun. We did a practice stream last week, and the battles are fast. These things go by quick because you got Shadow Guard and Shadow Vic and Machamp, and everything is just beating each other like so quickly. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a physical trophy. It is a Shadow Mewtwo with a Shadow and Electric Aura on it, with a big red Team Rocket R. It says Team Rocket Academy Shadow Cup Champion, and we're going to mail that. It's a laser engraved. We're going to mail it to whoever wins the cup. So it should be a lot of fun and a fun way to close out the end of the season. And thanks, Sir Maximus and Mel, for reminding me.
I know the one question I almost forgot to ask. If you obviously would have wanted to win this at the beginning of the year, and a lot of people would, but only one person can win. Compared to what you watched last year and what you thought it would be like to win, how is it measured up in comparison? And can you believe how far we've come in terms of like the broadcasts and just like the hype that's built about it, and it's just a completely different beast?
Oh, completely different. I remember being in Chicago. I was actually there for the Worlds or the North American Championships last year, and just like you said, Julie, so many things are different. I remember talking with Matty F. Baby at the bar, and he was just the coolest guy. He was like, "Hey man, I like your videos," and we just started chatting, and he was so humble. I remember a trainer club sitting at a bar top table by himself, and he looked so awkward, and nobody was coming up to him, and he was just starting to really, really get some momentum with his channel. And now he's got like 150,000 subs. Like, so much changes in a year.
You're telling me there's hope.
Oh, absolutely.
For everyone except for you, Jiggly Dad.
I'm the guy that sits alone at the bar table. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean that would be me. If I didn't go there with a friend. I remember, walking over there and seeing Nick Trainer Tips and King and Zionic all in the booth, and Pokemaster Holly was walking around, and it was just so cool. And then everybody got forced out onto the Chicago streets. I remember Ryan Swag looked extremely inebriated, and he was having such a good time, and everybody was just really, really hyped. And I remember standing out there in the rain. People are holding umbrellas over these people while they're tapping on their phones. You're hoping that one raindrop doesn't interrupt your charge move, and it's just so intense. And everybody's cheering, and it's just such a wild event. And I just think about it in this kind of light. The people really made that celebration something special. And when I won North America, I had so many messages and so many people were wishing me well. And I was just the happiest guy on earth, but I was sitting alone on my couch, and it just kind of had a very, very different feel. And I think some of my friends heard about that, because after Worlds, Lyndon, who we mentioned a minute ago, he's a local to Tampa, and he and his girlfriend came over, and my brother and his girlfriend actually just moved here, and they came over. And we had a nice dinner and some cake and drank beer and just hung out. And it just gave it a whole different kind of feeling. So when you look at the comparisons, the broadcast has come miles. It's so much better. It's so hype. It's so good. But the people are what really make it special. So I'm really looking forward to 2021 when we can have those big crowds. Hopefully we're not on a street corner in Chicago in the rain. But if we can have everybody together, that's going to be really special.
Maybe we'll have a venue, and it'll be the house that Speedy built, because you've brought stuff so far just from a PR standpoint of nothing else. But thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for just your humble, gracious attitude. And I really hope that we continue to see more of you in the coming days, but definitely take your own advice and make sure you take the time that you need. And whenever you want to do anything on the Jiggly stream, like, trust me, you DM me, like, we'll just get you on that night.
Yeah. I start DMing you, and you're like, "Damn, Speedy, leave me alone." Here we go. Oh, this guy again.
I don't think so. All right. It has been great, Speedy. You have a good one.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much, and take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.